Poverty in Canada, an all too real human rights issue. Article 25 of the United Declaration of Human Rights states that everybody has the right to a standard of living adequate for the health and well-being of himself and of his family, including food, clothing, housing, and medical care, and necessary social services, and the right to security in the event of an unemployment, sickness, disability, widowhood, old age, or lack of livelihood in circumstances beyond his control. 1 in 7 Canadians live in poverty every day. That is 4.9 million people, 1.3 of which are children, that are living below the low income cutoff, a number that rises every year regardless of inflation or whether wages are increased. Many individuals do not earn enough money to support themselves, let alone their families. Poverty rates among Aboriginal Canadians are significantly higher compared to the rest of the population. A 2013 report by the Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives showed that half of Status First Nations children in Canada live in poverty, a figure that increases to 2/3 in Saskatchewan and Manitoba. There are different perspectives on looking at poverty, whether that be through the lens of ability to obtain the absolute necessities, and many of these people living below the cutoff line cannot do even that, especially those on neglected reserves. They have little to no drinking water or food, and they live in run-down houses. So many Canadians are living paycheck to paycheck, barely able to afford their rent, bills, or food. This increases the risk of homelessness and food insecurity, which is a deadly cycle of poor health and nutrition and poverty. Poverty leads to food insecurity because you can't afford any food or any nutritious food, which leads to poor nutrition and furthers into poor health due to conditions caused by the poor nutrition, which furthers your poverty, and so on and so forth. People can say that those needing help are getting it through their welfare if they've applied, but those people need more than the bit of money that they get that helps them to survive. They need help in learning how to budget and control their money instead of spending it all in one go. Imagine living in a world where 7 out of 10 preschoolers are facing food insecurity. That is the reality for those in Nunavut. Something needs to be done now. The Convention on the Rights of the Child is a human rights treaty which sets out the civil, political, economic, social, health, and cultural rights of children. But there is a severe lack of funding in the government's budget, and it's evident in the continuously increasing rates of child poverty. Canadian studies showed that more than 1/3 of all food bank users were those under 18, and many of them are still not being fed well or fed at all. Many of these children are leaving their homes due to family conflicts and abuse, and it's well understood that children who experience poverty and lack of educational opportunities often grow up to become adults who experience poverty and low education levels. It is a deadly cycle that leads to so many more people falling into the hands of poverty. It needs to be caught and stopped as children. I firmly believe that if the government put more into ending child poverty and getting them the help they need now, poverty and homelessness will not be a future risk.